I received a message from my ex-boyfriend while on the train. I have a new girlfriend now. To avoid any misunderstandings, let's delete each other. Seriously? Is this guy mental? The next second, my roommate sent me a message as well. Lucas and I are together now. You don't mind, do you? How could I possibly tolerate this? I handed my phone to the lad sitting next to me. Excuse me, could you help me with something? Ding! This novel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. My phone vibrated. I opened it to see a message from Lucas Thorne. I have a new girlfriend now. To avoid any misunderstandings, let's delete each other's contacts. Seriously? Is this guy mental? The next second, my flatmate sent me a message as well. Lucas and I are together now. You don't mind, do you? I stared at the messages for 3 minutes, the silence deafening. Daisy Bell was my flatmate and the instigator of my breakup with Lucas. She branded herself as the guardian of our love, waving the flag of good intentions while overstepping boundaries. When Lucas was pursuing me, Daisy volunteered to be his wingman, using the opportunity to have him treat us to meals constantly. When we argued, she and Lucas would chat all night, claiming it was to resolve our conflicts. Even the birthday gift Lucas gave me was chosen by her. She deliberately asked me in our dorm room, "Lily, do you like this necklace? I went to the mall with Lucas yesterday to buy it. You chose it?" "Yes, Lucas told me he didn't know what to get you." "I've got good taste, don't I? You're lucky to have such a great flatmate like me. Oh, by the way, we've booked a table at a restaurant tonight for your birthday celebration. You'd better start getting ready." I watched Daisy busy herself with makeup, then tossed the gift box onto her desk. "This necklace would go well with your dress. Why don't you wear it tonight?" Then I opened my phone and broke up with Lucas. "Lucas, are you serious?" "Why?" I said, "Because a relationship is between two people. Three's a crowd." The train announcement interrupted my thoughts. I looked at the messages they had sent one after another. I didn't believe it was just a coincidence. I could imagine them chatting together before sending me messages. How could I tolerate this? After pondering for a moment, an idea came to me. My eyes glanced towards the young man sitting next to me. A black baseball cap covered his face. He was wearing headphones and seemed to be resting with his eyes closed. I wondered if it would be too intrusive to disturb him now. But between being impolite and swallowing my anger, I decided to choose being impolite. I reached out and gently poked his arm. "Excuse me, sorry to bother you." The baseball cap slid down, revealing a handsome face. His looks were exactly my type. There wasn't a trace of annoyance on his face for being disturbed, just a hint of confusion in his eyes. Shamelessly, I handed him my phone. "Could you help me with something?" On the screen was a message from Lucas. The young man frowned when he saw it. I thought he was reluctant, but the next second he smiled knowingly. He took my phone and sent a voice message, "Who are you, mate?" Then he looked up at me, his lips curving into a smile. "Is this how I should help?" "Yes, yes, yes." I nodded frantically. This handsome bloke was really on the ball. I hadn't even said what I wanted to do yet. Thank you, mate. You're not just handsome, but kind-hearted too." My loose tongue, blurting out such honest truths. The young man's eyes crinkled with an even deeper smile. Suddenly, my phone started buzzing nonstop. We both looked down at the same time. A string of messages, all from the same person, Lucas Thorne. "Lily, who's that bloke? Did you break up with me because of him? Unbelievable. Saying such things, what's wrong with him?" "Oh, he's lost it," the young man suddenly spoke up. His eyes flashed with a hint of mischief as he continued to ask, "Do you want to wind him up even more?" "Huh?" Before I could react, he extended a finger and pressed the voice message button on the chat box. "Oops, we've been found out." He released his finger, and the message was sent. He certainly knew how to drive someone up the wall. The next second, Lucas Thorne's call came through. I didn't want to answer at first, but when I saw the handsome stranger's face full of eagerness for drama. All right, I'll indulge him. I pressed accept. Lily, who's that bloke with you? Lucas demanded right off the bat. The helpful stranger on the train. Of course, I wouldn't answer him like that. But I also felt too awkward to say the words boyfriend in front of the stranger. Lucas, won't your current girlfriend be suspicious of you calling me? I asked pointedly. Lucas was clearly taken aback. I only messaged like that because. His words were cut short. Darling, I don't know if his current girlfriend will be suspicious, but your current boyfriend might get jealous. The young man next to me suddenly leaned in, his warm breath tickling my hand. Even though I knew it was fake, that darling still made me blush. Damn, Lucas cursed angrily on the other end. Lily, you've done it now. So this is why you suddenly broke up with me. You'd better hope I never find out who he is, or I'll give him a thrashing every time I see him. After that, he hung up. How utterly absurd. The handsome man leaned back in his seat, looking satisfied. He said with a serious tone, "You've won. Your ex-boyfriend must be feeling worse than you now. No man can tolerate being cheated on, especially finding out about it after the breakup. You seem to know a lot about this. Have you experienced it yourself?" I asked. He turned to look at me, his face expressionless. Do I look like someone who would go through something like that? Deep, soulful eyes, a perfectly straight nose, and smooth, flawless facial features. A face that clearly wouldn't suffer in matters of love, but would make others suffer instead. Thank you, I said sincerely, expressing my gratitude once again. If it weren't for this train knight in shining armor, I wouldn't have been able to get back at Lucas Thorne. Just thinking about him being with Daisy Bell made me feel sick to my stomach. But then I remembered his hurt expression just now, and I felt much better instantly. You're welcome. Teaching cheaters a lesson is every citizen's duty, he replied. What noble moral values, he must be a university student. I tentatively asked, You're still at university, right? The handsome man nodded. Yes. Which university? A university. What a coincidence, as if fate had planned it. I exclaimed excitedly. We must have been farm laborers together in our past lives to have such a connection in this one. The handsome man visibly fell silent. I don't know about you, but I certainly haven't been a farm laborer in any life, he said. He'd better believe I was just being abstract. Daisy and I returned to our dorm room one after the other. As soon as she entered, she made a beeline for me, leaning against my desk. Lily, why didn't you reply to my messages? She asked. I had replied, with silence. Daisy probed further. Are you not replying because you're upset that Lucas and I are together? I had almost forgotten about that whole affair until she brought it up so persistently. I picked up my phone, opened our chat, and sent her a one. There, I've replied now, I said. Lily, what's that supposed to mean? Daisy asked, confused. I looked up at her. Didn't you ask me to reply? I did, and now you're not happy. Amy, sitting nearby, let out a snicker. What are you laughing at? Daisy turned her attention to her. At you, obviously, Amy retorted. Ignoring Amy, Daisy continued addressing me. Lily, I've been worried sick because you weren't replying. I was afraid you were angry and ignoring me. Of course, you'd have every right to be upset, but I really don't want to lose you as a friend. Daisy's voice gradually lowered, filled with a tone of self-pity. She always did this. Just like when we had that row about her staying up all night chatting with Lucas. She had cried and apologized profusely in our room. Lily, I only did it because I saw how upset you've been lately after fighting with Lucas. I was just trying to help you too. If you don't like it, I won't do it again. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. Even though she was the one who had overstepped boundaries. She made it seem like I was being unreasonable and overbearing. Lily, I'm telling the truth. Look, I'll show you our chat history. Lucas and I were only talking about you two. Indeed, it was about us. Lucas, Daisy, if only Lily was as gentle and understanding as you, we'd never fight. She's always acting like a spoiled princess, getting angry over nothing. Sometimes I've just had enough of her. Daisy, don't say that about Lily. She must have a reason for being upset. You must have done something to annoy her. Besides, I'm not as great as you say. Out of hundreds of pages of chat history, she chose to show me these few lines. It only made me angrier. Of course, I knew she did it on purpose. And now, she's at it again. You know what? When Lucas first confessed his feelings for me, I was shocked and immediately rejected him. But you can't control matters of the heart. I thought since you two had been broken up for several months, and Lucas repeatedly assured me he no longer had feelings for you, that's why I agreed. Lucas said we should all have dinner together someday, as an apology. Lily, when are you free? Never, because I'm afraid I might not be able to resist smashing plates in their faces. I started to wonder if I had been too nice before, which made her think I was easy to deal with. I flipped my phone face down on the table. Daisy, I'm not a doormat for you to walk all over. Are you done pretending? When Lucas and I were together, I didn't want to mention your little crush and all the things you did. Seems like I gave you too much face, and now you think you're somebody. Does being with Lucas after we broke up make you feel so proud and special? Picking up someone else's leftovers and treating it like a treasure. You came to tell me all this just to see me upset and heartbroken over you two being together, didn't you? To satisfy your ego? Sorry to disappoint, but I'm not as good at pretending as you are. I can't fake it. I didn't expect to expose her inner thoughts so directly. Daisy's face now looked like a piece of raw liver from the market. Her voice trembled as she spoke. Lily, you're being so nasty today. I replied, let me tell you, it's not just today. If you don't like what I'm saying, you don't have to listen. Daisy Bell stormed off, and my ears finally got some peace and quiet. Amy gave me a thumbs up. Girl, you were on fire today. You used to turn a blind eye to her antics before. I recounted everything that happened on the train to her in detail. Amy slapped her thigh. That's amazing! Why don't I ever meet such helpful handsome blokes when I take the train? Is that really the point here? Amy suddenly became very interested. He's from our uni? What's his name? I'll search for him on the campus wall. She pulled out her phone as she spoke. James Martin, from the Faculty of Computer Science. Someone's actually posted photos of him. Bloody hell, he's gorgeous. Amy held her phone up to my face. The screen was filled with a close-up photo of James White. The defined muscles of his arms as he threw a basketball. That slim waist under his red and white jersey, those tight, toned abs, and... Amy sighed, you lucky thing. I replied, not yet. I clicked on James' social media profile. Wow, his moments were even more bare than his face. It left me with no way to learn more about him. Unlike me, with my unfinished life but perfectly curated social media. Amy asked, by the way, are you still going to the class president's birthday tomorrow? I replied, of course, why wouldn't I? Amy said, I was worried you might feel uncomfortable seeing Daisy and Lucas Thorne being all lovey-dovey. I said, they can do their thing, I'll do mine. Amy replied, I thought it might put you off your food. I looked at her, puzzled. They're just being affectionate, not taking a dump in front of me. Why would it put me off my food? The next day, in the private room. Lucas, I admire you. You've managed to snag both of the prettiest girls in our class. One new flame on your left, one old flame on your right. Yeah, Lucas, interview time. Who do you prefer, your ex or your current? After a few drinks, some people just couldn't stop talking. I couldn't help but frown. What a disrespectful question to ask. Lucas didn't answer immediately. He just looked in my direction, then awkwardly averted his gaze when our eyes met. After a moment, he put his arm around Daisy's shoulders, pulling her close, and asked in return, what do you think? Daisy's face turned red with embarrassment. She snuggled into Lucas's embrace like a delicate bird, her tone coy. Stop it, everyone's watching. Then, feigning generosity, she comforted me. Lily, don't be upset. I'll scold him for you. Hold on, why would I be upset? Can't they just let me eat in peace without dragging me into this? But of course, some people just love to stir up drama. Lily, you look quite unhappy. Don't tell me you're still hung up on Lucas? I replied, not at all. Don't deny it, Lily. We all understand. After all, our Lucas is quite the catch, isn't he? Are these people deaf? Can't they understand plain English? I looked at the chattering group, then at Lucas, who remained silent. Several words popped into my mind, birds of a feather. I deeply regretted how I could have been so blind as to ever be with Lucas. It was as disgusting as stepping in dog muck. Sorry I'm late, a familiar voice suddenly came as the door opened. I looked up. It was James Martin. Thank goodness. It's James. I sprang to my feet. You're here. You're here. Two voices rang out simultaneously. It was me and our class president. The president looked at me in surprise. You know each other? So he was the president's friend. I became even more certain that James and I must have shoveled manure together in a past life. I nodded, yes, he's my boyfriend. Our eyes met, and I desperately tried to signal to him with my gaze. He raised an eyebrow slightly, a flicker of confusion passing through his eyes before the corner of his mouth turned up in a meaningful smile. Yes, that's right. I'm her boyfriend. After James Martin said this, the entire private room fell silent for a few seconds. The first to break the silence was the class representative. He was overjoyed. When did this happen? Why didn't you two tell even me? I replied, because we like to keep our relationship underground. It's thrilling. The class rep fell silent. I looked at those who had just been joking earlier and smirked sarcastically. Do you think I'd still be hung up on Lucas Thorne now that I have my current boyfriend? At this moment, the expressions on their faces were truly spectacular. Especially Lucas Thorne, whose face instantly darkened. The person sitting next to me was Amy Clark. When James Martin walked towards me, she quickly stood up without a word to make room for him. After James sat down, he leaned close to my ear and whispered, "Which one is your ex-boyfriend?" Human nature is indeed gossip, even he was no exception. I replied irritably, "The third one to your left." I instinctively looked over, only to find Lucas Thorne staring at us intently with anger in his eyes. James even commented, "You had poor taste." I couldn't argue with that. Daisy L. suddenly spoke up. "Lily, how did you get a new boyfriend so quickly? Why haven't we heard you mention him in the dorm?" As sarcastic as ever, acting as if others couldn't do the same. I deliberately sighed loudly, "Isn't it because I'm afraid of you?" I took James Martin's hand and waved it in front of everyone. After all, I cherish this one very much, I can't bear to share. Everyone in the room understood, their gazes subtly shifting towards Daisy Bell. Daisy's face darkened. She looked to Lucas Thorne beside her for help, but he deliberately ignored her plea. She could only laugh awkwardly and say, "Lily, stop joking around." Lucas suddenly spoke up, "How long have you two been together?" As I was contemplating how much time would be appropriate to make up, James spoke first. "Are you sure you really want to know?" A flash of cold fury appeared in Lucas's eyes. James chuckled. "I suppose I should thank you. If you hadn't failed to cherish her, how could someone as wonderful as her have ended up with me? Isn't that right, senior?" I declare, at this moment, James Martin was my hero. Everyone in the room drew in a sharp breath, yet they couldn't resist their desire to watch the drama unfold. Lucas's face turned ashen, the veins on his hand bulging as he gripped his glass. Just as he was about to explode, the class president stepped in to smooth things over. He put on a look of mock despair. "Does anyone remember that I'm supposed to be the star today?" "I do." I was the first to stand up. "The reason we're all gathered here today is to celebrate the birthday of our mutual friend, our esteemed class president. Come on, everyone, let's raise a toast to him." My phone vibrated. "Amy, well done, you've bagged him already?" "Me, it's fake." "Amy, don't worry, leave it to your bestie. I'll turn that fake into real." She then suggested to the group. Let's spice things up a bit instead of just eating and drinking. How about we play spin the bottle? Whoever it lands on has to do a truth or dare, and no lying or chickening out allowed. When the bottle landed on James, he chose dare. Amy opened an app on her phone and placed it on the table, sliding it towards James. Go on, tap it. Let fate decide the rest, she said. What nonsense about fate. I knew better. This app was Amy's own creation. She always brought it out at gatherings when there was a guy she fancied, using it to manipulate the situation. The options weren't random at all, she had preset them from the start. It was always the same few choices, and sure enough. Kiss a lady of your choice here for 3 minutes. Starting with a big one, how exciting! Amy's voice couldn't hide her anticipation. Her acting was so over the top. She might as well have just announced my name and address while she was at it. If we were actually dating, a kiss wouldn't be a big deal. But the problem was, we were only pretending to be a couple. I already felt awkward just holding his hand earlier, let alone kissing him. James turned to face me, silently mouthing, "Do you mind?" I shook my head almost imperceptibly. Strangely enough, despite having only met James twice, I didn't feel the least bit uncomfortable. Perhaps it was because on both occasions, he had come to my rescue. Of course, I had to admit that his handsome face made it difficult to feel any aversion towards him. James leaned down and lightly brushed his lips against mine, as gentle as a feather's touch. It sent a tingling sensation through me. That brief moment caused my heart to skip a beat. Amy persisted, calling out, "No way, that wasn't 3 minutes." James chuckled sheepishly, "She's shy." Wait, who exactly was the shy one here? I noticed the hint of pink on his ears and couldn't help but inwardly scoff. Thud. A glass was set down heavily on the table. Lucas's face darkened as he spoke in a chilling tone. "Can we move on to the next round?" After the party ended, the class representative went to settle the bill. James, Amy, and I waited behind, planning to share a taxi back. Lucas, who had already left, suddenly returned. Without a word, he punched James in the face. Caught off guard, James's face jerked to the side from the impact. Lucas's eyes were bloodshot as he growled, "I told you, every time I see you I'll..." Before he could finish, James's fist connected with Lucas's face. The blow left Lucas reeling. He seemed to lose all reason and tried to lunge forward, but the class rep rushed over and restrained him. "Lucas, you're drunk. Stop this." "I'll take you home," the rep said firmly. Amy glanced at James and me, then quickly chimed in. "Lucas is in quite a state. I'm worried the rep can't manage alone. I'll help him. You two can catch another taxi, all right?" With that, she hastily departed. I borrowed some antiseptic from reception to clean James's wound. "Lucas really hit you hard," I muttered angrily. James reassured me, "It's fine." I didn't hold back either. In the dim light, James's eyes sparkled with tiny flecks. A few strands of hair fell messily across his forehead. His thick dark lashes trembled slightly. I found myself dabbing the medicine on more gently, feeling terribly guilty. "I'm sorry," I said softly. James opened his eyes and replied calmly, "You didn't hit me. What are you apologizing for?" I sighed. "If I hadn't asked you to pretend to be my boyfriend earlier, none of this would have happened." James's eyes flickered briefly. A soft chuckle rumbled in his chest. "Then why don't you say you wish you hadn't asked for my help on the train that day?" I was at a loss for words. Damn it, I just had to prove a point, didn't I? Besides, James paused before continuing. "How do you know I'm not willing?" That night after I got home, I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned in bed, my mind filled with James's words. "How do you know I'm not willing?" Damn it, it was love. Sure enough, his words came true, he could easily make others suffer. The next day, Amy saw me and exclaimed, "Lily, did you stay up all night revising again?" Nonsense, I'm clearly a natural talent. My eyes inadvertently swept over Amy's desk, spotting the book she had placed there. My gaze brightened. "Amy, lend me your IELTS materials." Didn't you already pass IELTS? Why do you need the practice book? To cover your pot noodles? It's not just any practice book, it's my guide to love. I opened my chat with James and typed, "Have you taken IELTS yet? If not, shall we study together at the library?" No good, even a dog would shake its head at that. People might think I'm just looking for a study buddy. I deleted it and typed again, "Oh my days, IELTS is coming up and I haven't revised at all, crying and pounding the ground.jpg. Have you passed it? If not, shall we go to the library together? A woman's vulnerability, a man's weakness." It showed he was typing, but then it changed back to his username, back and forth like this. My heart went up and down along with it. After a long while, James replied with a simple okay. Seriously? Did it really take him that long to type 2 letters? My 80-year-old grand types faster than him. Me, when? James, up to you. Then he sent over a picture of his timetable. I cheered inwardly. Then let's meet at 1:30 tomorrow afternoon outside the library. Don't stand me up. The next day, at the library, I stared thoughtfully at the foundational practice questions in front of James Martin. You don't look like someone who hasn't passed the foundational programs yet. James replied, "Well, I may look clever, but appearances can be deceiving." Of course, no one can have it all, can they? Suddenly, James's gaze fixed on something. I followed his line of sight. The A-level materials I had just taken out clearly had Amy Clark written on the cover. Bloody hell! That Amy hadn't even opened the book, but she'd been quick enough to write her name on it. I laughed awkwardly. Oh, these belong to my flatmate. She passed last term and gave me her materials. You know, saving paper, protecting the world, we should all do our bit, starting with little things like this. Don't you agree? I sometimes marvel at my own ability to lie through my teeth. James's lips curved into a slight smile. Indeed. So on behalf of those trees, I thank you. That really wasn't necessary. I looked down at the questions in front of me, randomly guessing A, B, C or D. It's not like I was actually here to study anyway, just keeping up appearance. I snuck a glance across at James. He had one hand propped against his head, the other twirling a pen. He didn't look like he was studying seriously either. Bang! The pen slipped from between his fingers. James didn't move for a while, but the corners of his mouth twitched almost imperceptibly. Suddenly, he looked up and caught my eye. I didn't have time to look away, and our gazes locked. James spoke up, "Lily, are you looking for answers on my face or hoping I'll translate for you?" Damn, I'd been caught out. I brazened it out, replying, "Oh, I was just taking a break from studying. Looking at your handsome face gives me motivation to keep going, you know? But you've been staring at me for longer than you spent on those questions." I sat in the classroom, sending a message to James Martin. There are 2 kinds of the most dazzling light in the world. One is the sun, and the other is the appearance of students striving to learn. Today we already have the sun, so we're just missing 2 studious people. So, James, shall we go to the library together? James took a long time to reply. This wasn't like him. He usually responded instantly. Perhaps the past few days of studying had left him exhausted? Or was it because of me? Had I done something to upset him? I spent the entire lesson reflecting earnestly, growing more and more distressed as I did so. Romance truly does make one suffer. But the suffering vanished in an instant. Because my phone vibrated and James's message popped up. Just had a pop quiz, couldn't check my phone. It's over now, I'm waiting for you outside the classroom. Outside the classroom? I looked towards the door. James was leaning against the railing, his posture relaxed. Seeing me look his way, he raised an eyebrow at me. Whispers of discussion arose from the back of the room. Isn't that James Martin from the computing department? He's so handsome. I wonder who he's waiting for. Probably Lily White. I heard he and Lucas Thorne even got into a fight over her. I'm so jealous. When will I have 2 hot guys fighting over me? In your dreams. So this is how rumors start. It's so exaggerated. Besides, Lucas wasn't fighting for me, he just thought he'd been cheated on. He was fighting for that tiny, insignificant bit of pride he had as a man. Knowing James was waiting outside, I couldn't help but glance towards the door. Lily. The teacher at the front of the class suddenly called my name. Although I know I'm not as handsome as your boyfriend, you can stare at him all you want after class. But me? You only get to see me for one lesson at a time. The whole class erupted in laughter. My face instantly turned bright red. The commotion in the classroom was so loud that even James, standing by the door, heard it. He sheepishly scratched his head and bowed to the teacher in the classroom. Sorry, sir. I didn't mean to disturb. With that, he scurried off to somewhere else. James, text me after class. I couldn't help but smile as I saw the message pop up on my phone screen. Amy couldn't resist leaning over to ask, so, how far have you two gone? I thought for a moment before answering. We've progressed from reading comprehension to writing exercises. Amy looked at me as if I was hopeless. Are you two in secondary school? Going to the library for dates? I corrected her, we're not even dating yet. Amy's eye roll was so dramatic it felt like it might reach the teacher's desk. So, Lily, you're facing a tall, fit, good-looking single guy every day and you can resist dating him? Are you some kind of ninja? I seriously and solemnly considered Amy's words and found them quite reasonable. So, a few days before New Year's Eve, I took the initiative and asked James how he planned to spend New Year's. James asked in return, how would you like to spend it? Shall we have dinner together? Just dinner? I looked at the person in front of me in horror. What else did you have in mind? James chuckled helplessly. What are you thinking? I meant, after dinner, would you like to watch a movie together? Oh, yes, of course. My face reddened. I had overthought it. On New Year's Eve, everyone in the flat had their own plans and was busy preparing, except for Daisy. She was on the balcony talking on the phone with Lucas. And it seemed like they were having an argument, their words becoming increasingly heated. Lucas, it's New Year's Eve tonight. You're not spending it with your girlfriend, but instead you're going out with friends? Why can't you take me to the pub? What friends? Female friends, I bet. You think I don't know what you've been up to? Lucas, you're despicable. Daisy shouted and hung up the phone. Amy Clark and I exchanged a silent glance, neither of us saying a word. When Daisy came in from the balcony, her eyes were slightly red-rimmed, clearly showing she had been crying. As she passed behind me, she stopped and said bitterly, Lily, seeing me like this must make you so happy, doesn't it? Yes, it does, I answered honestly. Caught off guard by my directness, Daisy was momentarily stunned. I was in a hurry to meet James Martin and couldn't be bothered with her. As I was about to reach the door, I thought for a moment and turned back. Daisy, when Lucas was with me, he thought I wasn't as gentle or caring as you. Now that he's with you, he probably thinks you're not as lively and cute as other girls, or as sexy as others. That's because Lucas is fundamentally a terrible person. So don't doubt yourself or waste your energy on him. Cutting your losses now is the best thing you can do. When I left, Daisy was still standing where she was. It's not that I'm trying to be a saint. Actually, aside from the Lucas situation, Daisy has been decent to me. She once took care of me when I had period pain, making me ginger tea with brown sugar. She also helped me try to get concert tickets. So, I suppose people are just multifaceted. We'd agreed to meet at the school gates at 6 o'clock, but it wasn't until 5:30 that James finally appeared in a fluster. By then, I'd lost all patience. I'm so sorry, he panted. I was looking in the mirror and realized my hair had grown out. I thought, since today's such an important day, I'd better get it cut. But I had no idea the barbers would be so packed with last-minute customers like me. I queued for ages. His voice trailed off towards the end. No wonder his hairstyle had changed. The fringe above his forehead had been trimmed into short, textured layers, accentuating his features even more. Combined with his outfit today, he exuded the fresh, handsome charm of a young university lad. Seeing that I remained silent, he hastily added, Lily, please don't be angry. I swear I'll never be late again. I wasn't angry. I was just pondering what James had referred to as an important day. Was it significant because he was spending New Year's Eve with me? Besides, looking at that face of his, any anger I might have had would have melted away. The New Year's Eve traffic was exceptionally heavy, frustratingly congested. Realizing we were only a couple hundred meters from our destination, we decided to get out and walk the rest of the way. The winter wind whipped up fallen leaves from the ground, bitingly cold. I couldn't help but shiver. James took off his coat and draped it over my shoulders, instantly enveloping me in warmth. Trust Canada Goose to do the job. I looked at James, now left with just a sweatshirt, and asked worriedly, "Won't you be cold now that you've given me your coat?" James shook his head. Guess why I wore such a thick down jacket today? It was for this very moment. I couldn't help but laugh. James, you're so childish. I noticed a small wisp of hair on the tip of his nose. Hold still for a moment. James obediently froze, his eyes fixed unwaveringly on me. I reached up to remove it. The warm breath from James's nose tickled the back of my hand, sending a tingling sensation through me. It reminded me of that kiss during the dare game the other day. As if possessed, I blurted out, "James, let's be together." James's face suddenly became a kaleidoscope of emotions, looking as if he wanted to speak but couldn't find the words. Is this how a normal person reacts to a confession? My heart sank. James, you're not going to reject me, are you? James stammered, "No, All right, don't say anything more," I cut him off. James suddenly took my hand and slipped it into his coat pocket. My fingers touched a small square box. James smiled, a mix of exasperation and affection. I had it all planned out. I was going to confess at midnight on New Year's Eve. He sighed softly. "Lily, you're too impatient. Asking someone out should be my job." My hand remained tightly held in his pocket. I could feel the warmth in my cheeks and my heart pounding in my chest. So this was the important day he'd mentioned he was planning to confess to me. I opened the box to find a necklace inside. I looked at him questioningly. "Did you choose this yourself?" "Yes, I did." James suddenly looked nervous. "What's wrong? Is my taste that bad? Don't you like it?" It wasn't that. I just had PTSD when it came to necklaces. "No, I love it," I assured him. I took off the scarf around my neck. "James, would you put it on for me?" "Of course." James held the necklace in his palm for a moment, warming it up. He blew on it gently a few times. His arms encircled my shoulders, his warm fingertips and the cool necklace meeting at the nape of my neck. Behind him, brilliant fireworks spread across the inky night sky. How wonderful. Both the fireworks and love had arrived early.